Welcome to another episode of Hold My Cutter, coming your way from Bern by Rocky Patel. We're just a few blocks away from PNC Park on the North Shore. Special guest is a Pirate Hall of Famer today, and our featured smoke, I think it's the same one that he suggested the last time, but it's such a good cigar, who can blame us or him?
Yeah.
It's the vintage 2003 Cameroon, rated 93 by Cigar Aficionado. It's aged Cameroon wrapper with Dominican and Nicaraguan fillers and a Nicaraguan binder. The blend delivers a medium-bodied smoking experience, and it really is perfect for any time of day. It was also recommended by one of our sponsors, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. We were going to talk a lot about not just Hall of Famers, but All-Star Steve Blass. And speaking of All-Star, Era, pronounced like Sarah, without the S, Katz, just like the business school. Not sure there's any affiliation there, but she is our MVP in real estate and a top producing realtor at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. If you are thinking about buying or selling, you need to call Era Katz. She has been knocking it out of the park for over a decade. She handles your home like she would handle her own. You're in good company. She's good people. So do me a favor and check out her website at askeracats.com. That's Ask Era Katz with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. When it comes to real estate sales, remember to ask Era because she knows.
And she's the best of this era.
Yeah, Era.
Era is
pronounced Era.
She's the best of this era.
Or that too. Yeah. But it's not Era Katz, it's Era Katz at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services.
She's the best era of this era.
Oh, there you go. Now that's more like it. Now, we are with, in case you haven't noticed, recognize the voice, the face, if you're watching on YouTube. It is the great Pirate Hall of Famer Steve Blass. We were with Steve a recent episode talking about the good old days, but we didn't get to a couple of things. First of all, that NLCS, you pitched 2 complete games of the 1971 World Series. Steve will never say it. It's blasphemous to say it here in this town, but there is an argument. I'm not saying it should have happened, but there is an argument. In fact, if you take out the personalities, you take just statistics, just look at the 7-game series, there's an argument that Steve could have been the MVP, maybe should have been the MVP of the 1971 World Series. Obviously, Roberto Clemente, very deserving.
And we applaud that.
We applaud, of course we do. But there's a story leading up to that. You did not pitch as well in the National League Championship Series against the Giants.
You're kind.
Well,
well, to set the same, I had a good year. We had a stacked team. We ran away with the division. And I was 15-8, had an ERA about 2.5, so I was going to pitch the first game of the playoffs. What I did was fall into the trap. I had never pitched in the postseason. In 1970, we got swept by the Reds, and I didn't have a particularly good year, so I didn't get in. So 71, I start the first game, and subconsciously, I guess I fell into that trap that it wasn't the regular season anymore. So elevated, so it's an elevated situation, so I must have to be better. Maybe I have to throw harder. And I fell into that trap. I had a bunch of strikeouts in the first 4 innings against San Francisco out there. And then I got my face ripped off, and I didn't realize that was the problem. And the same thing in, I think, the last game. I got beat up in both of those games. So thank goodness our team was good. They've saved my butt by getting enough runs and outscoring the Giants. So we get into the World Series in spite of my 2 bad starts. So now I don't pitch the first 2 games because I was awful in the playoffs. In fact,
is that the reason behind that?
Yes.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I got beat up so bad.
They're trying to ride the hot hand.
Yeah, and what happened? And Doc Ellis had a big year, so Doc started the first one. He got beat up, and the second game was started by Bob Johnson. He beat Juan Marichal in the playoffs, 2-1, and so he pitched game 2 of the World Series. And you got to think of that team we were up against. The Baltimore Orioles, defending world champions. They won 100 games again that year. At the end of their year, they won the last 13 regular season games. They swept their playoffs and won the first 2. They were on a 16-game winning streak by game 3.
Can you believe that?
If you don't win game 3, you're not going to sweep them 4 games.
Oh, man.
And I finally just got in my head, hard head, I had to go back to be the pitcher that I was. And I pitched the game of my life, 3-hitter against that team. And we mentioned it, I think, previous podcast, that after that game, my dad jumped out.
Yeah, that's the thing to remember. So that was at Three River Stadium, obviously.
Yeah. And so that got us back into it. And we won the middle 3 games of the series, outpitched them. I won 5-1. We won the first night game in World Series history, which I'll never forget the Pirates for having, because the World Series should be played in the afternoon so the kids can run home from school like we did.
Oh, wow.
And anyway, that's a whole different story for another time. But we won 4-3. Bruce Keeson came in the first inning, pitched 5 shutout innings, and we won 4-3. And then Nellie Briles pitched a 2-hit shutout in Game 5. So we won Games 3, 4, and 5. Outpitched that team that had 4 20-game winners.
Can you imagine that?
Palmer, McNally, Dobson, and Cuellar. And so we
4 20-game winners on one staff.
Yeah, and
I mean, you may see one this year.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
maybe.
And Hall of Famers everywhere. Frank Robinson, Brooks Robinson, Palmer, the manager, Earl Weaver, Hall of Famer.
Jeez Louise.
And so we go into Game 6, go back to Baltimore, and everybody in Pittsburgh, we can win it now. Everybody in Pittsburgh is rooting for Bob Moose to start. Nobody was rooting for him more than I was, because I'd had my moment in the sun in Game 3. And as Frank Robinson slid across home plate to win for them, Danny Murtaugh tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Tag, you're it." Game 7.
Tag, you're it for Game 7.
We knew I was going to pitch.
No, Steve, wait. Go back to the NLCS. So the Pirates beat the Giants in the best of 5.
Yeah.
Then,
Yeah.
back then,
Yeah.
just the NLCS.
Yeah.
You won the division. The Pirates in the East, the Giants in the West. Played them in the National League Championship Series. Then you go to the World Series. But best of 5, 3 games to 1. You pitched Games 1 and
5.
5.
Yep, but we outscored them. Yeah.
But
So you slugged your way into the World Series.
Yeah, our team did. Yeah, we just outscored them. I mean, we had that kind of firepower. There's a play in the World Series. You know, you think, we were talking another time about little things that maybe you look back on. Earlier in that series, you got, first of all, it was advertised in some papers by saying it was going to be the clash of the 2 great right fielders, Clemente and Frank Robinson, MVP in both leagues, Robinson, Frank. And so earlier in the series, Frank Robinson is playing right field. It's one of my favorite things in the series. And Clemente hits a home run over his head, but he doesn't make it by much. Frank has got his back to the wall like this, reaches up, the ball just barely goes over his glove. And as it goes over his glove, you see Frank Robinson, tip of the cap.
Oh,
Professionalism.
respect. Yeah.
I get goosebumps because it wasn't a headline, fireworks or anything, but that little symbol of professionalism. I mean, that is so big, and it's just one of those great moments. You know, you look back if you play in a World Series of great moments. That sure
those little things that happen.
That little subtle thing. Frank Robinson doing that is a shine of respect to Clemente.
Yeah, it's greatness with greatness, right?
Two superstars with respect. Yeah.
Just to be clear, it was Game 4 of the best of 5. Pirates won 3 games to 1. You pitched Game 4
playoffs,
again, in the NLCS against Gaylord Perry. I didn't realize he gave up 7 runs in 5 2/3 innings on 10 hits. So you just talked about how you had to outslug the Giants, and then you outpitched.
And Bob Johnson beating Marichal.
Yes, that was huge.
Was that in the last game?
That was because you pitched the last game.
Okay.
And Keeson won in relief. Because you started, you went 2 innings. Keeson came in relief 4 2/3, and Justy got the save. Justy 2 1/3 innings to earn the save.
Well, Dave Justy, by the way, in that postseason closer, 10 scoreless innings throughout playoffs and World Series.
Wow.
Didn't touch him. And,
a great friend of yours, of course.
Yeah.
Now, you said that you thought you had to do something different when you got to the playoffs.
World Series.
I know, in the playoffs, you thought that.
Yeah, I had to be better. Yeah.
You had to be better.
Yep.
And in both games, you pitched 2 games in that NLCS against the Giants. You did not pitch well.
Yep.
What triggered your change when you got to the World Series?
Okay. Well,
bigger game.
Well,
no, but I mean, like, why what made you say, well, I better not do that anymore?
Well, first of all, I thought when I got beat up in the first game, okay, I got beat, have one of those terrible games. So I didn't do anything drastic to think about, what caused that, what happened, what I. So I went out there and thought again, I have to be better than I was during the regular season. So after those 2 games, finally I sat down and said, this ain't working. What's wrong? Oh, it took me 2 games to realize that's not me. I got to go back to where I was effective. So I had a little meeting with myself after the second time. Yeah.
It's interesting that like nobody came to you and said, this is what you got to do. Nobody said you mechanically got to change. Nothing.
No.
I still think one of the most remarkable things I think in Game 7, the final score was what?
2-1.
I don't remember. Did Murtaugh ever visit the?
Never visited
the mound.
Well, they asked him about that because it's a 2-1 game. In the bottom of the 7th, we're ahead 1-0. I got 2 guys on, nobody out. And so they asked Murtaugh, Danny, aren't you're going to get? Justy's been so good, aren't you going to, or somebody bring him? He said, well, and he's quoted. I've got this quote on the wall too. He said, I didn't think I had anybody better that day.
How about now? That gives me goosebumps.
That gives me goosebumps. Yeah. That's called feel.
Yeah.
But that's the line right there.
Yeah.
Think of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
He never made a visit.
I mean, that mindset though is gone in baseball now.
Well, that's trusting the player.
Yes.
That's seeing what's unfolding. You're like, yeah, that's the guy today.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Wow.
And when people ask me what I think of Danny Murtaugh, 2 things. He cared about me. I was not a.
And that's the greatest coach.
Yeah.
The guy that cares about you.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
In the world, in life, on the planet, people that care about you. What else is the best thing in your world? You have people that care about you.
Amen.
And that thing, I didn't think I had anybody better today.
Well,
I didn't even go to the mountain, no visit. The game hours, the game was 2:07.
The devil's advocate though on that. It's a nice story that Danny Murtaugh cared about you as a person. Not to be too cold, but I will be to play devil's advocate. Who cares if the manager cares about you as a person? I mean, I want to win the game.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The game is first. Yeah.
Because quite frankly,
you can have 25 guys.
I hear that a lot in sports now. In professional.
Jim Leland had that great quote. He said, "You can give me 25
jerks,
jerks, and if they can play,
give me those.
I'll teach them PR in the off season."
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Danny.
But it's a special cat that manages.
Yeah. Well, when I
those
came up,
personalities.
I was a rookie. I didn't know anything. I wasn't a high pro. I didn't get a big bonus. I came up. I wasn't big. I didn't throw hard. He hung in there with me, and that was my rookie year. He retired after that year. Harry Walker came in. I'm going to send you to AAA. He said, your stuff's a little short. But then I came up the next year. So and I went down there, and I've talked to Pirate teams. I've been in the clubhouse. If you're in, I did a spring training talk. You guys are in this room. I got sent back. Jay Bell got sent back. It depends on the attitude when you get down there. Am I going to pout, or am I going to say, I belong there?
Yeah.
And I also told him this. I did that in the room, and it was an honor to talk to the team. I said, you guys have worked your tails off to get in this room, in this Major League clubhouse. Please don't content to be in the big leagues, because content is cancer.
Amen.
Find out how good a major leaguer you can be.
Well
you
said.
might be better than you think.
Yeah.
You might be capable. I did that all. I don't want to be inspirational, but I did that all my steps through. I didn't know if I could be better, but I was obsessed with finding out.
Yes.
I have to find out when I played D-ball. Am I good enough to be B-ball? I don't know, and nobody can tell you they know, because you don't know until you do it. But I'm obsessed with finding out. And I tell them, you don't want to be 85 years old sitting on the back porch. Yeah, I made it to the big leagues. I wonder how good a major leaguer I could have been.
No regrets.
Simple
to go back to that care factor, like you said, why does that matter? It's because of what he just said. The only way you ever find that out is if somebody cares enough to put you in that position.
Okay,
but no, it's all those times up to that moment, him understanding him as a human being outside of what he could do on the field, said, he's the best I got today because he's seen the best.
Okay, I understand
Does that make sense? So like,
of course it does.
If it's just a number, just an algorithm, or just a situation, you're like, oh, 2 on, I have a better version out in center field in the bullpen. But he's seeing something. He's like, I'm seeing the guy I know has something more today.
There's 2 categories. There's personal caring, and then Danny Murtaugh I got to win this ball game, and it's just,
And to me, that comes first. But
yeah. And the care factor is like sometimes like grabbing.
So I don't know.
Looking back, this guy, he gave a damn about me.
Well, that's a nice touch.
Yeah,
it's a nice touch.
And it's nice to look back on.
Absolutely.
But if I couldn't pitch, he'd care about me. It just didn't work out.
Yeah.
But the caring's never going to go away.
Exactly.
So,
and I think you fight a little bit different. I use military to think about this because if it was life and death, you want someone that cares about you right next to you. And I think that's where it kind of comes into fruition in sports is like, if you know that guy cares about you, if you don't have your best stuff, you think you do, they'll also come out and say, it's not your day. Thank you for everything you did today. And they pull you out. It's the same factor. It's just a different way because he's seeing something. And the only way you know that, right? It's like me and you can look at each other. We've been around each other enough. I know when you have something stew in your head, I back down. You only get that relationship through understanding. And then you would protect me. I protect you. Vice versa. All of us would do that. That only comes through time. And actually sitting down and doing this, story time. That's what I think the game's missing more than anything right now is guys after the game, grabbing a nice coffee, maybe a cigar, sitting down and reflecting back on the game because that's something I've loved with you guys.
Yeah. Well, there's also a moment. We're ahead 2-1. I go out for the bottom of the 8th inning. Before I start warming up, I picked up the ball, and I just picked up the ball, and I made a circle around the mound and took it all in. And that's risky because you don't want you're locked in. But I made myself do. I said I may never be in this situation again, and I've got that image of the crowd.
That's before Game 7.
In Game 7.
In Game 7, you walked around the mound.
In the 8th inning.
In the 8th inning, and I walked around before I started warming up.
Now, why do you think you chose the 8th inning, Steve?
I don't know.
Why not the 9th?
Well,
I'm just curious if you crossed your mind.
I felt like I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
It just came to me, and I'm so glad I did it. But
do you think that slowed everything down for you for a minute?
I think so. Yeah, good point. I've never thought about it that way. And there's something. I may never be here again, but I want this mental image.
That's
I want
so
this
great.
in my head.
So great.
So great.
That's probably what he saw too. Like this guy's taking this all in, locked in.
But going out to the bottom of the 9th, 2-1 lead, and the top of the 9th, I don't want us to score anymore. I want to get out there. Get me out there. I want to find out.
No more runs.
I'm obsessed.
Yeah.
And so to kill time, I walked back in the clubhouse, and Bob Prince is back there, as God is my judge, our announcer. And I said, what the hell are you doing in here? He says, me? What the hell are you doing in there? Go get me 3 outs so I can do some interviews. Only Bob Prince would say
only the gunner.
But I go out, and I got Boog Powell. It's a 2-1 game. He hit 43 home runs there somewhat. And all it takes is one swing, and I got him. I threw a slop drop, the old dead fish, the Flip Wilson. Yeah. He hit it 9 miles, but it was 3 miles foul. Out in front, I got him on. I turned the ball over just to get out of there so I could set up another one. And he tried to pull it, rolled over on it, and hit it to second base. And then Frank Robinson comes up. Oh. And I won 5-1 in Game 3. The only run they got, he hit a monster home run at Three River Stadium. Sankey puts three fingers down for a slider. I let go of the ball, and it feels like the same release that I threw to him when he hit the home run.
Oh, no.
And as I released the ball, I looked up and said, Lord, if you get me out of this one, I'll be a good Catholic boy for the rest of my life. He popped it straight up in the air, and I said, I was only kidding. And he popped it straight up in the air. And you know how that works. You can hit it 9 miles, or you can throw your perfect slider, and he hits it 9 miles, or pops. He popped it up, and then Merv Retton came up. It was the 3, 4, 5 guys in their batting order. Merv Retton, I always follow it through. Merv Retton hit the ball off the side of the mound. I said, well, here comes Justy, our closer. But I didn't realize the ball sent it back to shortstop a little bit. It bounced off. Jackie Hernandez was shading up. And I looked around, and I said, catch it. He caught it, and I said, throw it. And then I looked over to first base, Bob Roberts. Now you catch it. And then all hell breaks loose. The release is unbelievable. I ran over, jumped on Bob Robertson, and for the 3 steps it took me, I said, we did it. Screaming, we did it. And it's just, and then it's all crazy.
How long does that high last, by the way?
Man.
A couple months.
Chills.
Yeah, because then you go. You go.
Now, we're in the clubhouse. Clemente's getting interviewed. He's the MVP. They announce it right away, because everybody had a chance to see what we've been seeing for 20 years with Roberto. And
he was finally on
again,
center stage, and
I applaud it.
Yep.
But we're not together. And finally, we get this picture. We're standing there, topless, like I was. But I've got a picture of me and Roberto Clemente side by side, no shirts on, after the World Series. And the best part, we finally get on the airplane to come back to Pittsburgh. We don't take off. We're getting on. And he and Vera, his wife, are up at the front of the airplane. I'm sitting in the back in the middle, and I'm by the window. He gets out of his seat, comes down the aisle to our row, and quote, unquote, Blass, come out here and let me embrace you.
Wow.
I mean, all I do is hold on. I didn't say a word. I'll never forget that. That's those moments.
Yeah.
Thank God I've got an IQ of 16, but I can remember all that stuff.
Yeah.
And for him to get out of his chair, and the next spring, of course, I told him, hey, you got the sports car for MVP. I should have gotten the tires. And then he said something in Spanish that I can't not repeat. But I got to know him. We both had better friends, closer friends, but I got close to him because I really believe the last 5 years I pitched on that team with him, one of my goals was to make him laugh or break him up, and I got good at it. There was an old TV show, Mission Impossible, where the guy used to go in, he went in the phone booth to get his mission from him.
Yeah.
So he always got his neck worked on, Rob. Every game, 10 minutes before the game, he got his neck worked on.
In the trainer's room.
In the trainer's, he's laying down, belly down. And then you get up very quickly and get in his uniform. Nobody could do it quicker. So he's getting his neck worked on, and I crawled under the trainer's table. I said, good morning, Mr. Clemente. This is your neck. Your assignment for any of your teammates is for you to get 2 doubles off Jack Billingham and throw 3 guys out at third base. And if anybody catches on to you, we will disavow any knowledge of this. And he's up there on the
You can see him laugh. You can see the body, the table moving, because he was laughing.
Oh, my God. It's just, but what an honor. I got so lucky so many ways in baseball, but an honor to spend 10 years as a friend and a teammate and a fan of Roberto Clemente.
So cool.
The planets align. I come from a town of 800 people in Connecticut, small town. So small we didn't even have a town drunk. The guys had to rotate until Uncle Larry had his turn, and then the rotation stopped. But I'm up from this small town. He's from Puerto Rico. How do we wind up as teammates for 10 years?
So cool.
Thank you.
Right?
Just
wow.
simple as that.
Wow.
But
Steve,
everybody has dreams. Not everybody has a chance to live them. And I will never forget, it wasn't the Giants, the Dodgers, the Mets, somebody that gave me a chance to live that dream. It was the Pittsburgh Pirates. So they got my loyalty for life. I'll never quit on them.
Steve,
they gave me that dream.
Where were you when you found out about Clemente dying? Who called you?
We had a PR guy, Bill Guilfoyle. 4 o'clock in the morning. It's New Year's Eve. We just had a big party at my house. Dave Justy and his wife were staying upstairs.
In Pittsburgh?
Yeah,
in
Upper St. Clair.
St. Clair.
And Dave and his wife were there. We were neighbors, but as our parties usually did, it went late. So it's 4 a.m. in the morning, and Bill Guilfoyle, the PR, the phone rings and said, Steve, this is Bill Guilfoyle. There's an unconfirmed report. A plane went down in Puerto Rico and Clemente was on it. So of course you don't go back to bed. Dave and I stay up, and
at that point I wonder what you do, because back
we went to Joe Brown's house.
Oh my gosh, the GM's house.
Of course, yeah,
wow.
He was in Mount Lebanon.
Wow.
We drive over there, and then there wasn't CNN or 24-hour news loop or anything, so we had no confirmation. But I used this phrase. I think when it was confirmed, the shoulders of the city of Pittsburgh slumped. I mean, just simple as that. This city slumped. And then we went over to Willie Stargell's house, and I wound up delivering the eulogy for his memorial service down in Puerto Rico.
Wow.
I don't know how I ever got through it. But Bill Guilfoyle had worked for the Yankees, and they paraphrased the eulogy for Lou Gehrig and gave us permission to use it, and I read that at that church. I'm so proud that I did that. I wish it had been 20 years later. But I've got it on a plaque in my home. He was something else. He was something else. So when I say I've lived a dream, and it continues now. I go out and talk to people and get a chance to say thank you to the people for being interested in the Pirates and the stuff that I did. And I've come up with this thing that I say every time I talk, and it can apply to anybody, anywhere, but it only takes a minute to make a moment. You stop when you got a kid. I'm in a habit now when I see a young kid, I get down on one knee and get eye level, and say, "Hey Jimmy, where you been? I've been waiting for you all afternoon. Would you take a picture with me?" I ride home. When I get through, my heart feels good.
Oh.
It takes a minute to make a moment. And the kid may never remember it, but I remember that stuff. And I was taught that's part of the stuff that those guys helped me with.
Yeah, so that's what I brought this up with Fort a lot about you. I bring it up to other players. To me, Steve Blass is my prime example of why there cannot be any excuses for not signing
Amen.
Autographs for kids or having time for a reporter or someone. I'm just sorry, because this is a guy who was at the top of the baseball world. He was at the cover of Sports Illustrated. He was one of the top 2 or 3 pitchers in the league, all-star, arguably an MVP of a World Series. Could be certainly co-MVP, if not the MVP. Always had time, never hid. And then, at the peak of his career, it comes essentially crashing down on him. But you know what? He didn't hide. That tells me, and should tell everyone, that there are no excuses. And I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't believe, Steve, that it was, again, not being cold or disrespectful. You did learn from the Baseball Academy of all these great, but that was inbred in you, that you had that growing up in Connecticut. For me, that came from somewhere else.
That's mom and dad.
Yep.
That's mom and dad.
I mean, enough was said when your dad ran down there and gave 3.
Yeah.
Right.
That speaks volumes.
Yeah. And, you know, it was horrendous. You know, we won the World Series. Next year I won 19, and then it was over. And I still don't know why it happened. I don't have to. It happened. But I learned from that, too, that it didn't end my life. I'm still a human being. I got a family. There's no reason I still, and I made myself a promise that if people wanted to hear that part of the story, I never said no, because that's part of the story. And if you're going to be available for the media and all that stuff, stand-up guy, you know, I felt good about being a stand-up guy after all that. And when I went back down to minor leaguers, I was the story of every writer. You know, here's this guy who won a World Series, and now he's down here in the minor league. I never said no.
Were they following you around, like different, wherever you'd pitch down in the minor leagues after?
Well, every town we'd go to.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So,
well, we go to,
so
we go to
the media would kind of go around to you, right?
Well, yeah, they'd come over. It's an easy story.
Yeah.
It's an easy, and I had respect for the job they're trying to do. And it's mutual respect, professionalism. I'm a professional still. I was a ball player. I wasn't a star anymore, or a big name, but I still had, and looking back, I just turned 82, so a lot of looking back, but I'm proud of the fact that I never said no.
Yeah.
And I still don't. And still.
You said that you, to this day, don't know what happened, and it continued because
I tried everything.
I know you did, and I remember being involved in the old, when Pirates used to have old timers games, and I was helping set those up, and I'd contact the player, write letters, and they would, and I'd try to get the positions for each player, and I didn't know anything about it, but they said Steve will play the outfield. Now, at some point though, you fixed it. How did that happen?
Well, I fixed it. I met a guy, and I can't think of his name now. Richard Crowley, kind of a early.
How'd you meet him?
Sports psychologist. I was broadcasting, early in my broadcasting career. This guy shows up in Bradenton, and he said, "I'm in the wrong town. I'm looking for Mark Wohlers."
Who also had that thing. Mark Wohlers having all kinds of issues.
And he said, "What's your name?" I said, "Steve." I said, "I should be looking for you." And I wound up spending a lot of time with Richard Crowley. And we had fantasy camps, and we had a guy that was a pain in the ass. So I worked with him psychologically.
Yeah.
You know, he said, "I don't care what caused their thing. We're going to pour acid on it. Why doesn't matter. We're going to fix it." And we talked and talked and talked, and I spent a lot of time with him. And we had a fantasy camper who was a pain in the neck, and he said, "Hey, I think I could hit you." And I went out, and I asked Chuck Tanner, I said, "Let me just pitch to one guy. See, if I hit him, I don't care." Because I was hitting everybody. I went out there and I struck him out on 3 pitches, and I'd not pitched in how long? I pitched 7 innings in the fantasy camp game just because I said, I'm just going to do this until I'm all over the place. And I just got tired. But I pitched 7 innings and I said, I'm not going to do anything more. I'm too old to pitch. And, but that's...
How great did that feel?
Oh.
I mean...
I went home. On the way home, I bought a huge bottle of champagne. And Karen and I drank that bottle of champagne.
Now think about that. Kind of a quiet moment. You yourself, nobody else probably had any idea what was going on, but you overcame.
I'll never forget that. And I didn't have to do anything more because I didn't want to ruin the moment.
Yeah.
But
was there anything that Richard Crowley said to you that stuck that you can pinpoint? Just a mindset, huh?
Well, one of the things he said, you got to stop asking why. You got to be beyond that and go forward. Try to go forward. That's gone. You can't change what and when you looking back on the stuff, the toughest part of that whole time is that I kept going out there, thinking something would fall in place. When I was still in the big leagues, 73, kept trying, had a bunch of starts. And the interesting thing, when I was on the road, when I was awful, and I was awful, people would cheer because their team was winning. When I was pitching at Three Rivers, it was quiet. That was the toughest part.
Wow.
Because they were rooting so hard for me, because what I'd done. That was, and I literally was up in my backyard 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning with tears coming down my eyes because I knew I couldn't do it anymore. But I couldn't quit until I was convinced. And the Pirates are so great. Danny Murtaugh, this guy that cared about me, and Joe Brown cared about me. They said, we're not going to release you or anything. You tell us when you've had enough. I mean, how about that gig? Wow. And finally I said, Joe, Danny, I can't do it anymore. And I pitched one more time. Danny Murtaugh, my last game I pitched down in Bradenton, he got thrown out of the game in the 2nd inning. I was all over the place and walking people and throwing a ball. And he came out and waited on the mound until the umpire came out and argued with him until he threw Danny out as a gesture to me.
How about that?
I'll never forget that either. And my kids were there, my wife was there, and as I walked down the right field line at McKechnie Field, they were sitting there, and I got my 2 sons, and they walked down the right field line with me. He explained why. I said, tomorrow I'm gonna announce it. It's gonna be enough. So, and you learn from the great stuff, but I learned just as much. Well, I don't know if I learned as much, but I learned a lot that my life wasn't over. But boy, it took some while because I had to find a job. I wasn't making a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah.
And before I left Florida, I had a job. And it was a job selling high school class rings, and I still stayed doing clinics and camps and everything for the Pirates. So the word involvement still applies. But I remember all of that, and there's value in all of it.
I can't imagine being at Three River Stadium and it's quiet because everybody's kind of anticipating, wanting, rooting for him internally without cheering, just kind of watching. Come on, hope it works. But he's a bulldog. Speaking of which, Era's battle cry, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Era Katz. Battle cry: exceptional service, bulldog at negotiating, and relentless in your pursuit of happiness. If you're buying or selling real estate, you need to call Era Katz. She's strategic, smart, and aggressive in her approach. She's no joke when it comes to that bulldog claim. She goes after it. She's in it to win it for you. Check out her online reviews. Era, Sarah without the S, Katz. Home inventory is scarce, interest rates are high. Multiple offers, it's enough to make your head spin. Now more than ever, you need a knowledgeable real estate agent. You need a closer. You don't want to necessarily win the game, but you want to finish it with the least amount of stress on you and your family. Call Era Katz, Realtor at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services at 814-758-8623 for guidance. That's 814-758-8623. She is the best. You'll be glad you did. We're talking to the Hall of Famer, Steve Blass, the Pirate Hall of Famer. Oh.
Yeah, and during that time, you learn about people. My teammates during that time when I was struggling, still in the big leagues, and it was awful, never stood up taller or closer. I mean,
that's incredible.
That was so tight. We had roommates back then. Dave Justy was my roommate, our closer. He was with me every night on the road, every night there with me, and I'll never forget that for Dave. And Willie Stargell was so great. Willie would say, "Hey, I'm going to get in the cage, just you and me. Just see, I don't care if you hit me 20 times. I want to see, you want to work on it?" And I did, hit him a couple of times, but he would go in the cage and just to be there for me and let me throw to him, see if something would fall in place. And you don't forget that kind of stuff. You don't forget a lot of things. This guy here, when you were there, you gave me your time so many times. I asked you for your time. I remember a time at the ballpark here, we wound up talking for about 45 minutes, and it started by you were walking down the steps to go out on the field, and I said, "Hey, Michael, can you give me 5 minutes for a little?" We did the interview for the pregame show, and then we went out together just out on the field. I remember sitting on the bench there with you for, it had to be a half an hour, just shooting with people having time for you.
Oh, time. Well, it goes back to your point, and he did. I mean, he always had time. He always kind, and those are the guys that you want to root for the team, the players to win, all of them, but especially guys like Michael McHenry. And Steve Blass.
And,
Amen.
And Greg Brown.
Amen.
And don't shut me up.
Well,
I think
please.
He's one of the best in the business now.
There's no question.
And having to deal with one of the things, dealing with several different color guys, all different personalities. That's not the easiest thing to do. We had one guy, we got in a rhythm. I know when he was going to let me in. I know times when he wasn't going to let me in. I shouldn't have been in, but I interrupted. I stepped on him so many times, but he's one of the best in the business. So,
well, thank you for that.
Yeah,
but
we got lucky.
Yeah, we did. We great.
I can say that about both you guys.
Oh.
I went around, played a lot of different places. You guys were the best and are the best, and I've been very blessed to be around you guys. And I feel very fortunate to call you friends and people I look up to. So.
And the easiest thing to do is give to somebody your time. I always said, the only real gift we have as human beings is a gift of time. You only got so much, you can't negotiate it, can't buy more. And maybe, just maybe, how we might be judged will be based on how we distribute that gift. Wow. Simple.
And you know, we talk about people getting it, and it's so hard to define what that means. Who are the people that truly get it? You know, for me, he's like,
he gets it.
He's on the Mount Rushmore of people that get it. He gets it better than
true.
He's amazing how he gets it. Watch him work a room, watch him work with people, watch him do a broadcast, watch him, you know, out on the baseball field. I watched, fortunate enough, the Pirates let me in a couple of times to watch him address the team in spring training. It's a marvel, and to know his history, to have been a fan, to now be a great friend, and to watch him continue to evolve now as a great ambassador, and to be the Pirate Hall of Famer that he is, to know his great family, knew his dad, didn't know his mom. But you're talking, Steve, about a quiet Three River Stadium, and it made me think about the transition from Forbes Field. I never went to Forbes Field, but lived at Three River Stadium, knew that. What a contrast, right?
Goodness. We were delighted.
From right in the middle of Oakland, a neighborhood, in that old it was a ballpark,
there was a dirt path from the clubhouse down, wound around underneath right field stands to the dugout. Wow. And there were rats as big as dogs down there. And it was an interesting thing. My first 6 years there, but it's one of my favorite ballparks because that's where I got to the big leagues.
Yeah.
But 457 to center. I threw a ball to Willie McCovey, who hit it over the 457 sign with a backspin, and they say that it disrupted a foursome at the Shenley Park Golf Course. And I have a friend, well, he's a former friend now because of this story, who says every Monday night at 10 o'clock in the eastern sky, you can still see it going around.
A former friend.
Man, they don't build them like that anymore.
Yeah.
But we left on a road trip, left Forbes, came back to Three Rivers, and we were so excited because we're going to have carpeting and air conditioning for the first time. Wow. And but you know, I was in the big league. I didn't care. I thought it was a beautiful ballpark.
Yeah.
And but it was pretty wild.
But then going from that hard dirt grass infield to artificial turf.
Yeah. Well, they would put the tarp on it when we went on the road, and it would bake. Maz set National League records on that nasty infield that was hard to rock. There were infielders that would come into play that wouldn't take fielding practice when we used to do that because they didn't want to get hurt.
They left the tarp on while you guys were gone?
Yeah. And in the World Series in '60, Tony Kubek hit a ground ball, or they hit a ground ball to Tony Kubek. It was going to be a double play, hit him in the throat. It opened up the inning for the Pirates in a World Series game. But that, the thing is, going from that field over, we played on the carpet, and everybody thought, well, that's going to be a huge, huge advantage for the batters because the ball's going to get through quicker and everything. But we found out, first of all, there's going to be more double plays because the ball is going to get quicker to the, and you're going to have more guys held up at third base on a base hit because the ball will get quicker to the outfielder. So it wasn't as lopsided as we thought it was going to be. There was more balance than we thought.
Did you have to change at all your pitching style in that?
No, because if you lose track, it's still 60 feet 6 inches. No. That would have been a trap too.
You don't know if you pitched better there. You didn't feel different there as opposed to Forbes.
Well,
did you love pitching at Forbes?
At Forbes, I led the league in winning percentage. I was 18-6, 2.13 ERA. Oof. It was a whole point in back of Bob Gibson. He was 1-1-2, and he was 22-9. Who the hell beat him 9 times? How did that happen? But anyway, it was and I was playing in front of Maz and Gene Alley. They set, well, in 1966 on that infield, they set a National League record for double plays. Gene Alley, very underrated baseball player. But again, at every stage, every level, every experience, there's something wonderful.
Was there one moment, great moment, aside from the World Series?
Yes.
That's okay.
First major league start.
Oh.
I pitched in relief, my first appearance. Pitched 5 scoreless inning.
Which was where?
That was at Forbes Field when I pitched against Henry Aaron, the second batter I faced. So I get, as a result of that, I get a start in LA against Don Drysdale. He was 6-1, Hall of Famer, Dodger Stadium, 40,000 people there, and I get my first big league start. Complete game, 4-2 win over Don Drysdale. First major league start. Dreams. These are dreams you live.
Wow.
Everybody has them. I've lived them all the way up.
Did you
but
look
nothing
up
close to the 7th out of the World Series in 7th game.
Yeah, but again, that was.
Yeah,
it's almost a shame it was in Baltimore.
Yeah, well, Game 3 was in Pittsburgh. That was as important. Well, you can never say.
Yeah.
But if we lose that game, we don't win that World Series. Game 3 was huge.
Well, what about the city's reaction when the Pirates came back in '71 from Baltimore? Do you remember that at all? What the town was like?
We landed out at the airport at night, 8 o'clock at night. It was cold. We had convertibles. We came from the airport downtown. There were people on both sides of the parkway, from the airport to downtown.
Wow.
Just lined up.
Lined up. And we got down here. We were going to have a parade through downtown, but Danny Murtaugh's daughter was pregnant, and people were grabbing at our clothes and stuff, and we had to shut down the parade. So we had an impromptu party on one of the Gateway Clipper boats.
Wow.
And so we were there till 2 o'clock in the morning. Karen and I had a room out by the airport where we'd left our car. And it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Everybody's gone home. We're standing outside the Hilton trying to get a cab. Stranded, trying to get a cab so we could go out to the airport to get our car to drive home to Connecticut.
The night of the World Series, Game 7. You're at 2 in the morning. You're in downtown Pittsburgh.
We're like stranded outside the Hilton. We walked across the bridge.
Incredible.
And finally got a cab ride and drove
and you
home.
drove, no sleep.
Well, we got out there at 3 o'clock, slept, woke up, and.
Oh, you stayed out. You stayed at a hotel there.
Yeah, we stayed overnight.
And then you Connecticut. You got a hero's welcome,
well,
I'm sure, in your
that little town. It's like a Norman Rockwell setting. We had a little railroad station there, and on the loading dock of the road, we had a dais, and the governor of Connecticut was there. The guy that signed me, my high school coach, was the MC, and I'll never forget it. Just we had our little league teams there from our. We had and my high school coach. See, you know how pitchers are.
Oh yeah.
My high school career, I wore the same pair of white socks for 4 years. He found them and he bought them in a mason jar.
No.
As God is my judge on my children. He found those socks and presented them to me on my day. But I mean, we had
That's a classic story.
Oh my God, we had a guy that had a Chevy SUV. What are they? The Chevy semi.
Station wagon?
Yeah, well, it was
back then. I don't know.
The next, like an SUV.
Okay.
He made it, designed it into a pirate cap, like they used to have in the bullpens. Remember?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
So,
Bullpen carts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But 4,000 people. They shut school down in my town.
Wow.
More dreams.
Did you end up getting that 7-Up car?
No.
How did you end up getting that?
I'd never had a Mustang, so finally I found a bottle green Mustang with a white top, and I had that. We still have it.
Do you?
Yeah, my son has it. It's 2 seats and an engine. Everybody knew when I left the house. That thing roared. So I had it for a lot
You
of.
called it the 7-Up car?
Yeah, because 7-Up had a promotional thing with Ford, and they made 2,000 of them. Then they shut it down. They stopped. Something happened with the promotion, so there's only 2,000 made. So it's kind of a collector's item.
That's really
still
cool.
Got it. Yeah, still got it. So,
Wow.
but
It's been an unbelievable.
It's quite a journey.
A pirate life.
Man.
Yeah, I wrote a little book, A Pirate for Life. All those stories, and most of them are true.
Not really.
Can I tell a story about Richie Hebner? I don't have to swear.
Not the one.
I don't swear.
No,
Does it involve the?
Well, wait a minute.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, spring training after we win the World Series, Richie Hebner, one of my best friends, third baseman, we're both from New England. So, I'm driving a bunch of pitchers in, spring training, it gets boring, so we stopped at a 7-Eleven. Remember those white kind of jungle pith helmets, the styrofoam?
Oh, yeah.
So I bought one just to kid around with in the clubhouse. So I walk in, Hebner's meets me at the door, I guess, I don't know, he wasn't in a good mood. So he took it off my head and broke it in half over his knee. So I did my work. He had to play in a game, so I did my work, and I could go home. So I went in his locker, and
We'll be clean.
So I went and got a sock out of his locker, out of his shoe, and I took it in the men's room. And pinched off about a 6-inch steamer into the sock and put it back in the shoe. He never bothered me again.
Our audience here is
I didn't
tells
cuss.
the story.
Did you get the exit velocity on that?
Oh yeah, but my control was a little borderline. Still at the time.
Point Park University's Sports, Arts, Entertainment, and Music Business major in downtown Pittsburgh is among the most innovative business programs in the United States.
Speaking of doing your business.
You earn a Bachelor of Science degree in the Rollins School of Business while focusing your studies in the thriving industries of sports, arts, music, and entertainment marketing management. Located in downtown Pittsburgh, Point Park is in the heart of some of sports' most admired teams, world-class arts and cultural organizations, and nationally acclaimed entertainment venues, all within walking distance. Register now for the fall term. You might even get Professor Blass. For more information, go to pointpark.edu. And how do people really find out more about the Hold My Cutter podcast for it? How do you listen to it? How do you see it?
You got to get online. Anywhere you watch listen, whatever your podcast, Apple, go there, comment, like, subscribe, because you're going to want a lot more of this.
Yeah,
especially if you like a good
I can't wait to see the comments on this one.
Oh, I know,
on
right?
YouTube, because you'll answer.
Well, I will answer.
There's one more chapter to that.
Oh,
there's another chapter?
Yeah, well,
oh boy.
I'm 82 now, and I'm pretty regular, at 7:30 every morning. Problem is, I don't wake up till 8 o'clock.
We got to get that sock.
On that. I'm working on it.
Yeah, working on it.
Yeah.
Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Finding a home is much like selecting the perfect cigar. It takes time, expertise, and a discerning eye to ensure it suits your taste and budget. Woo! So before you think of anyone else, remember to check out AskEraKatz.com and ask Era, because she knows. Era Katz with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services is your real estate aficionado. Call her for unparalleled guidance and expertise. Whether you're buying or selling, Era is a winner. Remember to ask Era, because she knows. Ask for Era Katz with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services for all your real estate needs. AskEraKatz.com and tell her the Fort and Mr. Blass, Higher Hall of Famer, sent you.
Tell her if I was playing now, I would go to her and get a nice house, because I can't afford her now, because my rookie salary was $7,000. Now the rookie salary is $740,000.
Curious what your home is worth? If you don't at least ask Eric Katz, you'll regret it. We're wondering about regretting the end of Hold My Cutter. No, never regret.
Never,
this man
never.
is. We will continue our conversation probably off mic for some more interesting stories. But make sure you like and subscribe and tune into our next episode. And thanks to the folks here at Burn by Rocky Patel. Hold My Cutter.
Thanks, fellas.